everyone. Thank you for coming here on day 4 of EGX. I'm Jade. I'm the founder and organizer of Game Dev London. And today we put together a panel for all you lovely attendees out there. So today for this panel session, we're going to just ask questions to all these lovely game designers over here about how to design a game. So I'm just going to kick a round of introductions. So I got my script up here. So my name is Jade. I'm actually a freelance composer for video games, and on the sideline, I organize stuff for Game Dev London. My pronouns are she, her, and I've been in the industry for about 10-ish years or so, a little while. But for me, I still don't know how to design a game, so this is where this panel session will come in. So I'm going to pass the mic over, your headset mic over to my left. Would you like to introduce yourself and what's your discipline?
Hi, my name is Quang. I'm the founder of a small micro indie studio called Sobi Tech. I've been making games since I was 7 years old, which is a long, long time ago. I've been doing it professionally since 2000. I made games for the Game Boy Color. And in 2022, we're also making games for the Game Boy Color.
Nice one. Fabulous. How long have you been on the Game Boy Color then? Or do you just go through all the Game Boys?
Game Color is my favorite one. So
Excellent.
It's the one I come back to when I feel like a different project to do.
Nice. Awesome. Let's get a movement. So would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Anna. I'm an associate game designer at Outright Games. I'm in my second year there, and they're a publisher of kids and family console games.
Oh,
Yep.
hello. Hi, my name is Nichola. I'm a junior game designer at Sharp Mob London, also a host on the Game Dev London podcast. And as of July, I have been in the industry for a whole year.
Congrats. It's really good. Are you enjoying it so far?
I'm loving it.
Amazing. And how about yourself?
Hello, I'm Ben Sherratt, and my mic is very...
Getting a bit of feedback?
Sorry, just a little bit. Is it okay? Cool.
Yep.
Hello, I'm Ben Sherratt. I work as an independent developer at Cambridge. I've been in games since 2009, so a fairly long time. And I sort of entered the industry as a programmer, but now I'm a founder, but indie developer, basically. So, yeah.
Fabulous. So that's our panelists so far. I'm just going to get down into it and ask some questions, and then we'll just go around in a circle again. So, what is game design? How would you define game design? Really, really broad topic. So, Quang, do you have anything?
Game design. It's when you design a game.
What actually is design? How does it differ to say art?
Design a game. So games have mechanics and interaction. And games are a wonderful melding of all the things, all the creative arts. You've got music, you've got graphics, you've got gameplay, and it's having to put all that together. I specifically design from a gameplay perspective. I'm very gameplay focused, and I normally go with how the game plays first and foremost.
Okay, so for you, design is essentially good gameplay or fun gameplay?
Fun gameplay for sure, yeah. 100%.
Awesome. Do you have anything to add to that? Is
Yeah.
that the same for you?
I guess the way I phrase it is deciding what the game is.
Okay.
And then I guess that comes into what you said about mechanics, so what the rules are,
Yeah.
how you want the player to feel as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Is that the same for you as well? Or is it a bit different?
I almost picture game design as solving a puzzle. So you have all these jigsaw puzzle pieces, and you're trying to figure out how to put them all together to see the bigger picture, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of puzzles and thinking. Yeah.
Nice. And how about you, Ben?
So, for me, I feel like game is about bringing emotions to players. And so game design is really about how to put things in front of players in order to bring those emotions out. So, if you want to do feelings of sort of excitement? What kinds of sort of thing would you make to make someone feel excited? So it's a little bit different to just like the mechanics, because there's lots of different ways to do that. But like that's generally how it sort of manifests in the game at the end. But
Nice.
That's slightly different. I don't know.
Okay, so even though I was looking for maybe a dictionary definition of design, but to everyone here, it's slightly different. So Quang, you got gameplay mechanics, you have like what is the game, and then the mechanics will help define it, but you'll be the puzzle elements that make it, and then for Ben it's for emotions. So would you say the design is what you want it to be, and then whatever you design around that would help make that? Would you say that? I'm just trying to paraphrase it.
Sorry?
Yeah.
That'll do.
Awesome. All right. Let's move on. So, obviously, everyone here in the panel sessions, you all like different stages of careers in game dev. So, my next question for you is, what aspects of your role shapes the design of the game? So, this is more coming from, Quang here, you have your own company, and then Nichola here, you've only just started your game dev journey. I was wondering if there's actually a difference. Is it more like decision making, or whether you have input, and then obviously you go to your boss, and then the head designer will say, okay, that's a good one, we can consider that. Is there a difference?
So I run a micro studio, so it's like between 1 and 5 people, depending on how busy we are. And we all, since we're so small, we design together. Someone will come up with a concept, we'll sit around the table and we'll discuss what would work. We'd run a few prototypes and we'll design together, because it's all well and good coming up with a single idea. All ideas are valid, but it's the execution of those ideas that make it a good game. So through iteration and through refining it, we get the gameplay there.
Nice. So for you, it's more like the community aspect of making design rather than defining things by role in the studio. Awesome. Anna, how about you? Does that make any kind of difference?
My role's quite different because I'm coming from a publisher side.
Okay.
And also, instead of games coming to us, we actually sort of design and greenlight them internally. Okay. So I'm involved in the very early stages where also our games are licensed. So I'll make pitches for games to send to licensors. So I'm involved in those very early, just ideas on paper stage.
Okay.
And then further down the line, when they're in production, I'm also playing the builds and giving feedback to that. So I'm kind of involved very early, but also all the way through to submission time.
That's really cool. So you're literally there from the beginning of the journey for this thing and making sure that it is being made to the vision, essentially. Would you say that?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's amazing. And that really helps in the long-term process instead of coming in part way through design, would you say?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, especially because you know what the game was supposed to be in the beginning, so if you have something different by the end, then hopefully you can keep an eye on that.
Fair enough. That makes absolute sense. How about you, Nichola and Ben? Would you say that's pretty much the same? Are you there from the beginning of the design process right to the end, or does your role chop and change?
Yeah, I mean, with my company, we have quite a few people, and we also discuss a lot with our Malmo side as well, because Sharpmob is divided into London and Malmo, so we have to not only communicate with ourselves, but also communicate on their side as well. So make sure a lot of documentation is clear, make sure there's easy things to read, and everyone I feel has an input on design without there being any hierarchy or anything like that. So
Sure.
Yeah, I feel it's a very communal effort, but also this documents and spreadsheets are a designer's best friend.
Absolutely. And how about you, Ben? Would you agree? Would you do something different, or?
So I think I'm probably quite different in that I work by myself.
Okay.
And so I have to basically decide everything and trust that that's going to be good at the end. I have a lot of very good friends who are willing to give feedback, which is nice, but it's not really a collaborative process in that sense. I have to decide something that I think will be worth making, try making it, put it out, see what people think of it, and then go and do it again, basically.
So as a solo designer, will you Is it a good working process for you to work solo, or do you just like dip in and like talk to other dev friends to help prototype things, or will you just design a thing that you see in the wild and hope for the best?
I mean, I'll make something and ask friends to give me feedback on it. I think I've, over the years, come to a process that allows me to sort of make things fairly quickly.
Okay.
So, lots of, not always game jams, but game jams sort of style development, where you make something smaller and then put it out and see what the feedback is, rather than sort of go through the whole production process kind of thing. But I enjoy working that way, but it's kind of lonely as well. So, you know, there's definitely perks to being on a larger team.
Awesome. That actually brings us nicely forward to our next question when I talk about tools and processes, actually. Because, you know, we have a solo designer here, we have working in much larger companies. So maybe we can just do a bit of a deep dive into that with your tools and processes. Is it the same, essentially? Do you all start working on paper? Do you just start coding things straight in? Quang, I know this is a bit like going around in a circle, but I got to commit now. So, Quang, what kinds of tools or processes do you use to help your design game?
So
how do you start?
my main tool for prototyping is Game Maker Studio.
Nice.
I can prototype very, very quickly in that. Usually I'll have an idea for a game and I'll mock up a prototype. As I said, I'm gameplay focused, game mechanic focused, so by making something that plays first, you can see an idea there, and then you go through the iteration process and improve it that way. I'm a coder by trade, I guess.
Nice.
So I go straight into the code.
Also, what exactly is Game Maker? Can you just download a trial version on the website somewhere?
Yeah, so if you go to Game Maker's website, it's similar to Unity and Unreal. Game Maker's a smaller engine. It's predominantly for 2D. They added a lot of 3D stuff recently. I predominantly work in 2D anyway.
Nice one. And if you're not as code savvy, would you still recommend trying to just jump in straight into an engine, or would you want to plan out things?
I would say it really depends on your thought process and how you work best. Many of the tools, all the big three have drag and drop coding tools now, so you don't actually have to be able to code to make games anymore.
Nice one. But at the end of the day, you would still want to like have a working prototype, because then it's very easy to see what needs to be improved and what needs to be kept the same even.
Yeah, that's how I work.
Awesome. Nice. How about you, Anna? Do you start just coding into an engine, or do you like maybe spreadsheet it out first, or do you decide on paper?
I get to avoid coding in my job.
Nice. Okay, that's really cool.
Because we work in partnership with like external studios. So a lot of my design work is document based. So like game design documents or just general like feedback type documents. So usually we'll do that in a shared space and collaborate with other people. So that's like Google Docs or Confluence.
Yes.
And then when I'm working on pitches, then I'm usually just like always working in PowerPoint, because a lot of the early development work has to be presented to other people. So that's where I'm making it look more pretty.
Nice. So just for people out there who don't know, what exactly is Confluence?
So Confluence is kind of, there's different sort of companies that do it. It's like a wiki docs page. So you might hear of like Notion, Confluence. I think those are the main two.
I think so.
But yeah, just like cloud-based docs.
Awesome. So with your process, since you don't touch the coding side essentially, but you make sure that the communications between all the different disciplines are there, the central hub, so if any of the design elements change, it's already documented.
Yeah, because then that would then be passed on to the people who are more like hands-on with the code.
Yes.
So it's more like feedback to inform what they end up changing in the game.
Nice one. Really handy. I've been at the other end where I'm working on something. I didn't know design has changed, and I'm like, oh, so the thing I've been working on is not really relevant anymore. Why didn't you tell me? Anyway, so how about yourself, Nichola? do you start with the coding aspect or do you start with the documentation aspect?
Well, my process is very similar to Anna's. I also do not touch code because code makes me want to cry.
That's fair, that's fair.
But yeah, we usually have online game design documents which we share between all the disciplines, and if any design documents do change even just slightly, we make sure that the correct discipline is tagged into that. So then if something does change, like if we need a bit of code changed or a bit of art changed, then the leads in that department know that that update has been made.
Awesome. And lastly, Ben, as a solo dev and designer, do you even bother with writing design documents because it's kind of all there in your head? What would you do?
Yeah, so haven't not like a technical design document in that sense. So I do keep a notebook
Sure.
with like lots of ideas in, and then a lot of the design work I do generally tends to be for prototypes, like I sort of mentioned before, like make small demos that sort of mechanically feel there earlier as possible. But it kind of depends on the game as well. Like
Sure.
I did some like tabletop stuff recently, and that was all spreadsheets all the time.
Okay. So you were actually playing on a spreadsheet, essentially.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like probability calculations.
Excellent. Did you learn anything from that?
Oh, I learned a load of things. That was fun.
So the takeaway from that is have a go, even though it doesn't look like a game. You might learn something new, essentially.
I think, yeah, you can try lots of different ideas. It's fun.
Fabulous. So, well, you answered my spreadsheet question. So something does happen on the spreadsheet at some point. Awesome. So let me just bring up my notes. So we've been talking about how to start a design process, but does the design process ever end, do you reckon? Because for me as a musician, I could be forever like sitting on my desktop and writing and tweaking, turning a bit, or I'd leave it for a week and I'll come back and I'm like, actually I don't like this bit. I'm going to be forever tweaking it until I release it. So what do you think would make your decision to like maybe finish a design or just let it go, release it? Yeah, Quang, do you want to have a lot to say on that?
So making video games for me is very much making art. It's a form of art at the day, and art's never finished. It's only abandoned at some point for whatever reasons. And as a company, you have to look at your finances, look at your release schedules and things like that. You try to release stuff on time if you can, but things run out of time, run out of money, so you have to release it at some point to move on. And I'm quite a perfectionist, so I don't like letting things go. I want to polish it constantly, make it the best it can be, but you have to let it go at some point.
Do you think you'll ever be happy, do you reckon? Or do you just get to a point where I got no choice now?
You can be like happy to a point. Your happy is out there. Be happy that people get to play your game. So you find your happiness elsewhere from not completing your game to its masterpiece as it can be.
Sure, awesome. Thank you for that. Anna, do you think it's the same for you? Do you just need to wait until the time is right, or do you have like the gaming management overlord saying we've got to release the game now?
I do agree. Like you do just kind of, it's like art. You have to just stop at some point. But with games that have like release schedules, at least you have a kind of point where it's like, okay, we should probably stop tweaking with this thing now.
Sure.
And I think something that really helps with knowing when to stop is having design pillars. I think if that mechanic achieves that pillar, then you know it's at least represented in the game.
Sure.
You've not failed to completely miss something that was supposed to be there. So I think that definitely helps knowing when to stop.
So do you reckon that it's good to maybe set some kind of deadline for yourself to kind of stop you from just working on this project forever? Do you reckon like maybe you should like define that before you even begin?
Yeah, I think if you want to do a more structured pre-production, it is definitely good to have like the game design document, your pillars, what you want this game to like achieve. And then that should hopefully make development a bit smoother. But if you want to take a more indie approach where you are just tinkering long term, I think that's totally valid as well.
Nice one. Cool. And how about you, Nichola?
Well, I feel like the design never really truly ends, whether it's a completely finished project on Steam or whether it's a game jam game, because game design is all about designing for the player experience, I feel.
Sure.
And if you get reviews coming in saying, oh, this mechanic is really cool, but I feel like it needs to be tweaked, then you can always go back into the design and say, oh, okay, the design isn't over, so we can tweak it to improve upon the player experience, whether that is a very buggy game jam or a fully fleshed out AAA project.
Sure. And do you reckon, like, there's always a chance to fix a little bit of something, do you reckon? Now, we're kind of like in the era of like DLCs and patch updates, whereas before working more on like hardware, I think Quang, you'll know about this. When something is released on a physical copy, that's kind of it, right? Yes. So do you think there's always a chance now, do you reckon, to do that kind of element?
Yeah, I always feel like even if something is released on a box, you always have the additional patches that get released in future dates, which do tend to update the gameplay a little bit, even if it's like a couple of bugs or decreasing or increasing the player speed moving, just like small things like that. But yeah, I feel like even with a box, you can still get updates to improve the game design and gameplay.
Awesome. So there's still a chance out there, like even if a design element still needs a bit of tweaking, you can still kind of fix it, hopefully with a patch update.
Yeah.
Nice one. And lastly, how about you, Ben? Does it ever end for you? And you know, again, like being a solo dev in that essence, like, can you sleep at night? Does it still wake you up in terms of like this design mechanic is still not quite working? You know?
So I quite often have a load of things I want to do after the thing I'm currently working on. So I quite often always want to finish what I'm working on so I can go on to the next thing that I want to work on. So that's a thing. But like in a philosophical sense as well, I kind of think that when games are shipped, you've kind of made a promise to the player then about how the game works and what it is. And like in a sense, there's not much point in my opinion to like go and revisit it. Like that's one thing. I'd rather go on and do the next thing. Like and change that one, do that one slightly differently if that's what I want to do.
That's a really healthy and helpful approach. Actually, you've put like a boundary on yourself to say like, okay, you've moved on now, and you're giving yourself permission to move on, because otherwise.
Well, getting to the shipping point could be a bit of a challenge sometimes,
Oh, really?
but when it's gone, it's gone.
And do you feel like you can like move on after you shipped it, or I guess you'll be like worried about like, okay, do you need to do any fixing of any last minute bugs, or how's that process work after you've like shipped, let's just say?
Because of the way that I release the things I work on now, they tend to be like some unpolished things anyway. Like if it was to go forward to something like more commercial sense, that's a different kind of thing, and obviously we do the QA. But the first games that I worked on were like the first game I ever shipped was on the 3DS, which didn't have DLC until later in its lifespan. And so, like, I kind of am a little bit old-fashioned in that sense of, like, you know, you take it to GM, get it certified, it goes in the shops. That's it now.
Okay. So, like Wang, you've already had that experience of working with hardware stuff. Where just
yes, a
that's
long time ago. But, yeah, it was very different back then.
No, that's fantastic. So, if you were gonna give a little tip to the audience about like, when does the design process ever stop? Would you have like a one-liner to say, like just to, what kind of nugget of wisdom would you share?
So, to make things stop, you need to work out what your MVP is, your minimum viable product.
Right. Okay.
As you said, make sure your pillars are there. Make sure the things you want in the game are there. Feature creep is real, and you want to tweak, you want to add things constantly. Save those for version 2 or for sequel. Make sure your minimal viable product is done. If you have any time left over there or any budget left after that, then carry on, but make sure the MVP is done first.
That's really, really helpful advice, because feature creep is a thing. When you're continuously iterating on the design process, awesome. How about you, Anna? Do you deal with feature creep as well?
Yeah, it's definitely can be a problem, and it's good you brought it up because I completely forgot. So you kind of nailed it, and I guess maybe make friends with a producer,
Okay. So
and they
in a
can
viral
they can
format,
help you with all that. So.
make friends with a producer. So what exactly will a producer do? Will they just like help you keep things at a certain pace, or
Yeah,
what
like
exactly is a producer?
if you're just all about the design and the creativity side, then you
Right,
might
yeah.
not think about timelines or
Right,
milestones, or
yeah.
maybe they can think about when you should stop, so you don't have to think about that.
That's true. Okay, that's really good advice. How about you, Nichola?
Well, I feel like I can agree with just make friends with the producer. So usually when like producers are there for higher ups to say like, no, we can't do this for this milestone, and like maybe in the future milestone we'll consider it, but for now maybe not. So I always feel like there's like a limitation that the producers are there to like put in place, so that we're not adding too many features too late, sort of thing.
Excellent. So, for our audience out there, if you meet a producer somewhere at EGX, make friends with them. Lastly, Ben, do you have a producer friend to help check up on you to make sure you're still alive?
Unfortunately,
No.
I don't. I'm not a producer. That would be lovely. Yes, definitely make friends with your producer. I think for like as a one sort of tip, it's like what makes sense for like your own well-being and also like the studio's well-being, which kind of ties into the producer sort of thing. Like I think when people start out in design, and like when I started out in programming and doing games, I think to kind of realize this is when you start changing things, it like produces a waterfall effect of work for other people, which a producer will help you understand and also help like mitigate in. But like, so it's sort of like about everyone's well-being as well as your own well-being. But if you work by yourself, definitely your well-being.
Awesome. So this is really helpful and useful as well, because working in game dev can be isolating. It can be feature creepy. So yeah, having a producer or someone there to make sure to uphold the studio's health and the members of your team's health as well, because it can be very easy just to get stuck on your desk, turn into a shrimp. In a way, you've been like on this desk for 20 hours and, time has gone. So would you say to make a really good and impactful game design element, being a healthy studio behind that design element, would that make any effect on it? Blah, words. So let me rephrase that. Having a healthy studio and a healthy working culture, would that effectively make a better design? Do you reckon?
Ultimately, yes. It makes
Nice.
sense.
Yes.
I come from the era where crunch wasn't recognized as crunch. It was just what you did. You passionately made games all hours of the day. And it wasn't healthy. I burned out quite heavily in 2001, and it really hurt my career in video games with the burnout, because
Right.
it wasn't a healthy process.
Sure.
But yeah, look after yourself, hydrate, get up and stretch every hour, try not to work too many hours. But I understand, I can get very hyper-focused when I'm coding and designing, and it's one of those things where ultimately it's not healthy for you, and your game will suffer for it. With hindsight, it's probably not the best way of doing games.
Nice one. Nice warning. How about you, Anna? Would you agree with that statement? Like, is that very important just to be like a healthy studio and being generally healthy?
Yes, but if you're a healthy studio, you're less worried about stuff like running
So
out
true.
of time for design. Like,
True.
because we had the question, does the design ever end? But if you've got enough time and everyone's doing well, then you're not thinking about that as much.
Nice. Yeah.
So I think that definitely like comes hand in hand. And also like, even though we are doing things that we love and like working on games is really cool,
Yes. Yeah.
it is still our work, and it's important to take breaks from that.
Awesome. Last one. How about you, Nichola? Would you agree?
Yeah, I feel like if you have a healthy and happy studio, then just both the communications and the project just increases in like how well it is. Like for example, in my studio we have just small little groups of hobbies and interests, and just like having small groups of people in those clubs, it really puts everyone on like a similar level, so you know how to communicate with them in the future and stuff. Like I am quite the anime fan, and we have a little anime club at work, and a lot of designers are also in that. So knowing that I have a way to communicate with them, which isn't just like, hi, how are you? And like formally introducing myself, it really brings a level of like friendliness into the process of game development.
Yeah, so when you have that like kind of positive working environment, that automatically makes the design behind it a lot better. It feels nicer.
Yeah, and
right?
it's so much easier to communicate with people if we're all on like high spirits as well.
Awesome, yeah, I like that. So happy dev team, and it just makes a better game in general. And lastly, how about you, Ben? Would you agree as well?
I mean, I think most of my best work has probably come out of when I wasn't feeling terrible. I've definitely made myself ill to work before, and I wouldn't recommend people do that. So, yes.
Yes. So for the audience out there, please do look after your health, because that would affect your work and your design process. Let's talk about something a bit happier now. So my question for our lovely panelists here are, is there a specific game design element that excites you the most? What, maybe it could be a future trend, it can be something that you've seen working on, like maybe an alternative controller or something that you think would be like very cool to see more of. For example, VR has really gotten really popular, so that could be a really cool thing that excites you. So, sorry, Quang, I'm going to pass it on to you because you're close here. So, is there anything in particular, like gaming design-wise, that excites you in the field at the moment?
So, what excites me the most is when I have people play my game and they just get it. So that comes in the game design and the game feel. If you can communicate what you want people to do in your game clearly without you being there, then I've nailed it. So watching people play the game and they understand what they need to do, and then the happiness they have when they complete the task, that's magic for me.
Awesome. So that's more like just observing people from playing your game, and they finished the level, no problem, and they had a good time, basically.
As I said, it's understanding that the game design I've made is communicative enough and clear enough that people understand what they need to do.
Awesome. Fabulous. How about you, Anna? Is there a particular element of design that excites you the most?
I actually feel the exact same way.
Oh, really?
Well, because we make games for kids like as young as 3.
Okay.
User experience is huge, and it's probably the first console game they've ever played. So making sure that they can just pick it up and maybe even play without their parents' help is like a really nice thing, and we always want to like nail that in our design. So that's what I really like doing.
So having that simplicity of the design, which is so well tuned and fine tuned that even a 3-year-old can just breeze through the game level, and it's just perfect. Oh, that's fantastic. How about you, Nichola? Have you had any 3-year-olds playing your design work?
Funnily enough, when I was doing my final major project, for university, I did have my 3-year-old niece play my game.
How did your niece find it?
Well, she couldn't quite get the hang of WASD, but she did the mouse pretty well.
Okay.
But I've always had the knowledge in my head from back when I was studying games, where if a 6-year-old can play a game, then you've designed it pretty well, and you made it very inviting for brand new players. But a level of design that I find super exciting is when you make a document and then you see that document alive in the project, and you're being like, oh my god, it's alive! It's like Frankenstein's monster that you made. It's amazing.
Nice.
Like in like a few months ago, a group of friends a few friends and I made a game jam, and having the game design document for that and then see it come alive was just so magical to see. and like I got joy from seeing it, and then seeing others have joy from it. It just
Wow.
lightened up my world.
So would you say like the game design is essentially the blueprint for the mechanics coming alive, but having a really nice blueprint and everyone understands what's happening like on paper, they can visualize it. Would you say that's the most exciting part?
Yeah, and not having anyone be like, so what does this mean? It's just like having a completely
Sure,
perfect
yeah.
document and you just send it out and there's no questions. It's just like, yes, I did my job
Nice.
right.
So this is when like a producer will be really happy because I'm like, okay, actually everyone understands the design document. I'm just here to make sure, people are being fed and watered at a regular interview. So fabulous.
Yeah.
And lastly, Ben, what excites you the most about game design in general?
Everything.
Everything. Okay.
So I suppose there's a sort of like coming to game shows like this is a really great thing to do. Like you go out and you see all these new games that people have made, and like I mean, even now, like I entered the industry in 2009, and like
Sure,
it's basically exploded since then. It's great how many people can make games now, and how much stuff comes to these events, and then you go play these games and you see these great new ideas, and you think, great, I'm a pincher. And then you just, you find loads of new ideas and all sorts of really cool stuff.
Oh, that's lovely. So for you, it's more about the community growing and having their ideas and input in their own
Community
way.
and like really just interesting new concepts
Yeah.
coming out, and then you
Nice.
can, take them and work with them on your own new concepts and stuff. Because like a lot of game design is about taking things you see and like
Yeah.
putting them into your own work and like making new things that go alongside and all that sort of stuff. It's like it's very interesting sort
Oh,
of thing.
that's amazing. I'm having like nice warm feels inside now. That's really nice. I'm a big community fan as well. I get my energy and love from my peers and everyone's work as well. And it's nice to see everyone's work go somewhere as well. Like I see you've been like working on this for like 8 years or something, and it's finally in fruition and it's being released into the wild. So that's really awesome. So I guess my semi-last question, we're nearly there, my script. So usually bringing it back into the community, like a lot of gamers have been talking about like, oh, this is like a really bad game design or whatever. So that's got me thinking about one particular question, like, is there such a thing as a bad game design, but does it have a place in the industry? Like, what can we learn from it? Because sure, like maybe the design doesn't quite work for you, but that doesn't mean that it's awful and we shouldn't disregard it in a sense. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Quang.
I'm a firm believer that there are no bad ideas.
Sure.
But in terms of game ideas, let me rephrase that. There's no bad ideas until it comes to the game ideas.
Sure.
It comes to the execution and the design of the idea and how you make that come to life. Unfortunately, due to constraints, be it money or time, that sometimes they don't ever get to its fruition. So
Sure.
you get games that come out and they probably need another year or 2 years to be refined and become better. Because we run out of money, the game has to be released now, and the game isn't as good as it should be. But the idea is it's sound, it just didn't have time to make it a good game.
Okay. So now that we have that kind of like background knowledge, we can still extract and learn from that, hopefully. Maybe.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's always time for sequels and patches and stuff like that now on games. But it's tough because obviously ultimately releasing a bad game will ruin your reputation to a point, and it makes it hard to come back from that.
Nice one. So maybe TLDR still make friends with the producer for the next one. Awesome. How about you, Anna? Do you feel like there's such a thing as a bad game design, and what can we do about it?
I think in terms of ideas, like you said, there's no bad ideas.
Sure.
But like from a user experience standpoint, I think there can be unhelpful design.
Okay, unhelpful design, right?
When
Yeah.
things kind of work against the player and maybe prevents them from finishing the game.
Okay.
So
yeah.
that's often things that I kind of look out for in my job, because we
Sure.
want players to kind of get through and complete the game and not
Okay.
like rage quit or cry or anything.
So when it comes, you mentioned the term unhelpful design. Is that something like maybe having more accessibility options, or maybe just like, just giving players more options, like turn off a graphical thing or tweak the audio settings? Does that come under design in general, or maybe better design?
Yeah,
reckon?
you could definitely view it from an accessibility standpoint, or even just outside from that. If a game has like really clunky menus that are just annoying to use, or
Sure, yeah,
if you have to go through like 3 different things to like change what weapon.
Okay,
Just
right,
like
right.
when things are just very clunky, it's unhelpful whether you have the sort of additional accessibility needs or not.
Okay, yeah. So I guess like the concluding point from that is accessibility options are good, basically.
Yeah, and don't overcomplicate things.
Don't overcomplicate, but also offer accessibility options.
Yes, always.
Awesome. Nice one. How about you, Nichola? Are you also a fan of accessibility options?
Oh, for sure. Like, even just looking at modern games like The Last of Us Part 2, seeing the sheer amount of accessibility options they have, I'm just like in awe for it. I'm just like, I need more of this. This is wonderful. But going back to whether there can be such thing as bad game design, I feel like game design is so much of a learning curve. You can start out game design and it might not be as refined as like larger projects and like really refined like indie games as well. But yeah, I feel like it's less about bad game design and more of just like stepping stones and baby steps.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like building yourself up from there. It's like foundation and then like refine.
Awesome. So your TLDR is coming from the place that game dev is hard.
Yeah.
So even though like it's a huge learning curve and some things may not be executed well, like the idea may be there, but the execution may be a bit okay. But at the end of the day, you are the studio, you are growing. You can learn from that internally at least, and then you can make your next project hopefully a bit better now that you learned it.
Yeah, and even with game jam submissions, like you can always see the potential where this game could go if like they spend like not a weekend on it, for example. So I feel like all about learning when it comes to design, and just making your way up that ladder of learning.
Yeah, that's a fantastic advice. Lastly, Ben, how about you? Does bad game design exist in your world?
So I think there's 2 sort of types of bad game design, and
okay.
Like, if it's a game design that doesn't work or things like that, I love those games. They're great. You should put them on the internet and let people play them and just see what you made and like how they act and what it's like, and like you tried something and maybe it didn't work, but like that's cool. But what I don't particularly like, so when you ask the question about like what game design sort of is to me personally, and it's like about feelings and things like that, and so game design in the sense of a tool to produce, or I feel like produce emotion and that sort of things. So like what's it in service of, and like that. And so if you're making things like in service of something that like I'm not like, there's certain things you can make games about that maybe you shouldn't really.
Sure.
Like,
Okay. So what I'm getting from that, it's like ultimately what makes your game design, the design, is okay. You want me to feel or emote in a certain way through your design. Does that achieve that? But also there can be like sometimes like the purpose of this game design is to make you as frustrated as possible. So I'm thinking of games like Quap, or there's like the trombone game, the like trombone chat, where it's just like it's like it shouldn't work, but it does. Is that technically a good or bad design? So in a sense, like we know it's meant to be terrible, and the design helps elevates the terribleness of it to the point where it's funny now. So would you say like that kind of like makes sense now? If there is like a disconnect between your vision and the design supporting it, if that makes sense.
Kind of. It's kind of difficult to sort of give a sort of a nice answer in a sense, but like I feel like there's been periods in games where like things have happened that like, for example, if you go back to like free-to-play sort of era, in the early eras of that, there were a lot of things that happened where like children took credit cards to buy things that like because the game sort of pushed it on them, and it's like that kind of financial incentive being a sort of core of your game design. like personally, I don't particularly like that. It's a thing.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would say.
That's fair enough. So that's the game design over there. Maybe not for you, and that's okay. Fair enough. Awesome. So we're getting a bit of a time check. So I think there's about maybe 10-ish minutes left. So for our lovely audience there, or budding game designers there, do you have any last pieces of advice you want to give them?
I would say the best thing, if you want to make games, make stuff. Be it paper prototypes, coding prototypes, drag and drop prototypes. Just make stuff, because the more you do it, the better you get it. For me,
Awesome.
iteration is my favorite thing. Just make it, test it, try it with other people, just keep making stuff.
Fabulous. How about you, Anna?
Yeah, I agree. Make stuff or find opportunities to work with other people, like game jams, because having that team experience is really good too.
Yes.
And I think an obvious one is play a wide variety of games. I think I kind of just stuck to what I was comfortable with, and maybe I should have gone a bit wider.
Sure, yeah.
And that kind of just informs your sort of choices later down the line.
So expand your gaming tastes.
Yeah.
This is for research. It's okay to not like it, but at least you've experienced it. Excellent. How about you, Nichola?
So I'd say also make stuff, but when you make the stuff, always do documentation about it, even if it's like a small side project that you worked on or like a big personal project you worked on. Like you have to mention, I feel like mentioning how you got to your final product, what inspired you, like what particular games inspired you, and the highs and lows of making that particular product as well. Just how you got there and what your journey was to get to that final product is always a good thing as well, because then that's almost like the step one for game design is documentation. Just get as much as you can do. Yeah.
Excellent. How about you, Ben?
Yeah, no, this one's. I had a few different things I thought for this one, but I suppose one that's sort of useful for a bunch of different things. I think taking the time to understand how you yourself like work as like daily work, because it is a sort of task to do that, and I didn't do that until quite a bit later in my career.
Okay,
and I think it's an immensely valuable thing to do, to understand, because not everyone works the same way. But there's a lot of sort of things that you can do, and it helps you in a lot of different circumstances if you take the time to do that. So I would advise people to try and do that earlier than me.
Fab. Okay, and that's pretty much our panel. What is the best way for the audience to follow your work? Do you have a Twitter or anything like that? Now's your time to plug yourselves, basically, or whatever work you want to do.
You can find me on all the social medias under Asobi Tech. That's ASOBI Tech. Except TikTok. I don't do TikTok. Sorry, I'm old. I don't understand it. But if I'm on other social medias, Asobi Tech. We're currently making a game for the Game of Color. It's about Game of Diffuse, about a little robot who diffuses bombs. It's a turn-based puzzle game. Go check that out. Thank you.
Awesome. How about you, Anna?
Yes, I'm on Twitter at Latchman, and it's release season at the moment, so
okay.
A lot of the stuff I worked on when I first joined is coming out. We've got we've got big licenses. There's stuff like Paw Patrol coming out. Bratz, which is my favourite one, so just coming out.
Hype. How about you, Nichola?
So you can mainly find me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. At Humphreys Media. That's my name. I'm usually active on there. I'm either posting about cool game jams that I've participated in, or my new ink, because I've just got new tattoos, and my arms are in pain right now, but it's fine. But yeah, usually Twitter at Humphreys Media is where you can find me.
Fabulous. How about you, Ben?
You can find me on Twitter, BT Sherratt, SHERRATT.
Sure.
I'm gonna release an open world game by the end of the year, I hope. It'll be interesting.
Okay.
It's not gonna be very good though. You gotta, it's just me trying stuff.
Fab. And I think that's it. I don't know if we have time for questions, or are we doing Q&A here?